here in attendance. I saw Jess has just come in, Adam Walling, who else? And Sylvie Elsmore, welcome. So I noticed we've got a camera here. Usually if someone does that at a council meeting, I ask the council if they're happy with that. If they're not, we don't do it. So I might ask you, are you happy if this evening is filmed by, is it Andrew?
Yeah.
By Andrew Shooter, I think. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. You happy? Yeah. Anyone not happy?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, as I said, thank you for attending. At our first session, we heard your concerns regarding traffic speed, traffic volumes, amenity, pedestrian safety and the future of the Ashmore precinct. I committed that we would host the follow-up session and respond to your concerns. You may have seen the traffic counters on city streets and they were in your area in March and April. They've measured both the traffic volumes and speeds. Tonight, staff will discuss findings of those traffic counters and their implications. We believe this will be a low traffic neighbourhood where walking, cycling and public transport are prioritised, where amenity is high and where communities feel safe. We also believe in a city for people, not cars. Creating new sustainable neighbourhoods with high residential amenity is some of the most important work we do at the city. The city's track record in delivering walking and bike-friendly neighbourhoods is something that we are very proud about. I want to assure you that we understand that this is significant. It's where you live and we want to get it right for you. I'll now hand over to city staff who will present the feedback. There will be times when we will need to pause the presentation and staff will be available to answer your questions at your table or clarify their issues. So we'll have a presentation and then we're going to do table work where we'll have the staff there taking down your particular issues at the tables. So Veronica, here you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. For those that don't know me, my name is Veronica Lee and I'm the Executive Director of City Services. So the Chief Engineer and Traffic Operations report to my area. And as the Lord Mayor mentioned, we're following up from a meeting that we held a month or so ago about the MacDonald Street extension. So what we wanted to talk about today in terms of the agenda is we just wanted to touch base again on the Ashmore precinct development and what it is, because I think that's important, particularly for those that didn't attend the previous meeting. Feedback at the community concerns that we heard, both through the meeting that we attended and also through correspondence that we've received at the council. Look at the current state and what we found. We heard very clearly that as a community you wanted us to understand how the traffic was behaving in your suburb at the moment, and then looking at the future state and what we're doing, and then also some possible future options depending on the outcome of the future, and then some next steps. So the Ashmore precinct development is an important development for your area. I know you're very aware of it, and I suppose understanding it explains why the MacDonald Street extension is important. So what this slide shows here, and one of the questions we got asked was how many additional car parking spaces were being put forward in the development. So what we have is buildings A, B and C are already in operation, and they have 443 car spots. And the remainder of the buildings, which you can see are a little bit hazy there, when they come online, will have an additional 822 car spots. Not helpful, Craig, when I don't have my glasses on, but anyway, bear with me, everybody. No, that's okay. Anyway, that scared me a little bit. And what the traffic modelling shows from those additional parking spots is it's estimated to be 11 cars per minute in the peak from the traffic modelling for that type of development. One of the other points of interest that we thought was important to point out was about what the car ownership is like in the current area. So the parking for the development represents 0.6 cars parking spaces per dwelling. And for context from the last census, the general Erskineville area was 1 car per dwelling. So I think that shows that the Ashmore precinct will have a lower car ownership than the current standard that is in other parts of Erskineville. And as the Lord Mayor mentioned, we are a city for public transport and cycling and walking, And we wanted to show that this area is very well located development, and it's a very important part of I mean, you hear a lot about it in the media about, you know, locating development in appropriate areas with the right infrastructure. And in the immediate vicinity, there's 5 train stations, a metro, and 8 bus routes, acknowledging that some of them are not right on top of the Ashmore precinct and the distance to each varies, but I think very well serviced by public transport. So the MacDonald Street access. So notwithstanding the public transport, there are people that need cars, and there are residents and workers that need to access buildings to do their business and to live. The streets in and around the Ashmore precinct are all local streets, but some have been designed as local access streets, and MacDonald Street is one of these. In this map, in this diagram that you're seeing here on map, the streets in pink are the state roads, and the yellow are local roads. And then we've highlighted in green the local access roads for the Ashmore precinct, which is there. And if you can see it clearly on the screen, the little blue arrows are the driveways into the development, which was one of the other questions that we got asked. So I think what we're demonstrating in this is that by opening that extension to MacDonald Street, we're actually providing a greater access to the actual development for the people that are living there. So we go to the next slide. Might go back and forth with these a little bit. And what the next slide is going to show you is what happens without that extension. So you can see that what happens without that extension is the traffic filters further down into Coulson Street to get up into the development. And when we look at the traffic counts, which we've done, you'll find that Coulson Street is one that's already taking probably more traffic than other streets in the area. So we would be filtering the traffic predominantly onto Coulson Street to access the development. Does anyone want me to flick back through the other slide and back again? Are we all good? Yep. Okay. Yes.
We've got that, which is cool, but why do you ignore that Coulson Street is coming from road directions, and so is MacDonald Street in that way? Like it's sort of misrepresenting how traffic moves now.
Well, I think we're just showing an example. It's not possible to obviously map. Yeah.
That's not how traffic moves now.
It's not yet.
Traffic will come from all directions, but the thing is, it's really concentrating on just that connection. The connection didn't go in, coming in and out of that connection.
It comes from both directions now. It comes from both directions.
Just to clarify, I think what we're showing there the access roads. We're not showing that that's where the traffic necessarily is going to move. So what we're showing is those green roads show that's how you will access the development. Of course, traffic is moving all around the area. So we'll get onto how the traffic...
Well, what's wrong with that?
But we're not interested in how the traffic accesses the development, we're interested in how the traffic impacts the rest of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we understand that.
So I can keep going.
Yeah, okay.
We'll finish the presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah. We might just finish the presentation.
Yeah, okay, yes, we will. Thank you, Lord Mayor. So what we've done is we heard your community concerns, and like I said, that was through a number of different fora, like through the meeting and also through correspondence and other means. And so what we heard from people was that you're concerned about the rat running through the area, speeding in narrow streets, traffic and pedestrian safety, and exits are congested and it is hard to get out. And we've used a legend there where you can see where we've mapped also the locations of where you highlighted your concerns. It might be a little bit difficult to see, but these slides can be made available post the presentation.
That's good.
Happy for me to move on? Yeah. Okay, so as you would all know, because you live in the area, there's been extensive traffic calming work undertaken in Erskineville over many years. This slide details the type of treatments that have been put in place and where they are. They include yield streets, raised crossings, modal filters, chicanes, speed humps, pedestrian and bike-only areas, and also the new linear park. So I'll just pause for a moment and let you see that that's all the work that we've done to address traffic calming in Erskineville over the years. And then what we heard at the last meeting was that you wanted us to undertake the traffic and speed counts. These were undertaken between the 6th and the 13th of March this year, and we also included some additional street counts which were undertaken between the 16th and the 23rd of March in response to community feedback. So what we're doing in this next section is we're going to present one slide that is an example of the traffic counts and one that is an example of the speed counts. After I've gone through this, we've got handouts for everybody, so there'll be an opportunity for you to review the information at your tables and ask traffic operations staff, which will be dotted around the room, they're all in the corner over there, any questions that you might have about what we've found. So this next part of the presentation isn't the whole suite of information, it's just giving you an example. Okay. So this one is the traffic volumes. This slide is the traffic counts for the AM peak between 8 and 9 AM. The blue number is the northbound, eastbound traffic, and the yellow number is the southbound, westbound traffic.
Can you look visually at the same
I'll get my
screen?
glasses.
Can you look at the same screen? Oh, okay, right.
There we go, everyone. So we've got handouts of all of these, which we'll give you in a minute. So this is just to give. Can I just finish 2 slides and then you can have the handouts? I'm just explaining the legend so that people understand and the staff will move around. So, and as you can see, and I think we've pointed out before, you'll see that Coulson Street carries more traffic than other streets, and this would increase without the MacDonald Street extension. So the next slide talks. The next slide talks about traffic speed. This slide is the traffic speed for the full 7 days. Drivers are mostly travelling below the speed limit. The 85th percentile is the speed that 85 out of 100 vehicles are recorded to travel at or below. And it's a standard measure to show the speed most drivers naturally choose for the conditions in that street. So the 85th percentile speed is lower than the speed limit in these streets, so it indicates drivers choose to travel more slowly and that generally the current road environment and traffic calming is working. So,
Can I just ask one question?
Yep.
On your previous slide, you have numbers, but what is the unit? Is that hour per day?
kilometres per hour.
No, the
No.
one before that.
That's the number of cars between 8 and 9 AM in the morning.
Over 1 hour.
Yes, but we've got other examples. As I said, we've taken it for longer periods of time and also for the PM peak. And we'll provide that information to you in a minute.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. And so, as we know everybody can do, we decided to do a little bit of Googling and a little bit of Google driving to see what the times look like. And as you can see from this is an example of a trip of someone travelling from Station Street to Bunnings in Euston Road. And in this example, using local streets does take longer than using the state roads. I appreciate that this can vary over various times of the day, and it's just an example, but I think it's making a point that it's not necessarily faster at this point to go through Erskine as opposed to going around. Alison would have to tell me that time that she did it. It was around the AM peak. Yeah.
Around the AM peak, it was very,
And MacDonald Street, so they can know.
I've just said it's around the AM peak. Yeah. Pardon? Anyway. And so we wanted to show an example of if we open that if the extension is open there, it doesn't really substantially change the time frame in this particular example, and you would also need to navigate the traffic lights. So anyway, we're going to pause here now and we're going to hand out the traffic counts and the traffic speeds for people to have a look at and ask staff any questions about their observations. Thank you.
Sorry, quick question, when you said.
I wouldn't expect that from a long road.
Did anyone actually go out and drive
I can't answer that question. They might have, I don't know.
How many did they ride on and go down?
Okay, we might just kick off. So we've got a number of slides. First of all, we're just to outline the options we heard at the last meeting, and also some of the correspondence so you can come through. Just to touch on that. Now, just to let you know, so the city's position is that we would monitor so we've done traffic counts, we would monitor when the works are completed and the buildings are occupied. And if there is an issue arise where there's a significant increase, and some in the room believe there's going to be significant increase and more route running, but city staff believe that probably won't be the case. And if it is...
Sorry, Kim,
and if-
why don't you do the modelling beforehand? Why take this risky approach of seeing what happens? You have the capability to do the modelling beforehand to predict what will happen. So why don't you do that?
So modelling is better predicted where you've got large areas and you've got large road systems, not for local road systems.
I work on micro-simulation models that can model at the neighbourhood.
Yes.
So these
So we
models
might
exist.
beg to disagree. It depends on the assumptions you put into the model, and sometimes...
Well, I teach this stuff, so with respect, you're not an expert in this area. I teach it at university.
I've only got 45 years in traffic management.
Yeah, but I teach it.
So-
You're an architect. You're not
I'm not an architect, I'm an engineer.
Well, you have no expertise in traffic models. That's not your thing.
I'll take that as a statement. Okay. So I'll continue. So we'll just reflect the options that you kind of collectively in the room last time.
I have a question. When you said we'll monitor the increase after all the buildings are occupied, and if there's a significant increase, what is significant? What's your trigger? When will you then do something? Is it a 10% increase, a 20% increase, 30% increase?
So I wouldn't put a figure on it because there could be increases in certain areas but not other areas, and that kind of then focuses the problem.
And 812 average weekday, that's 33 cars per hour. If that goes up to 40, 50, but like when would you actually consider something?
So we will look at the traffic counts, we'll make them publicly available. We'll obviously be hearing from the community in that process as well, but normally it takes some time for the traffic to adjust to any kind of new development or to new streets. So we will do that kind of probably 6 months after that, but if it becomes an issue at any time, we're happy to do that modelling. Okay, we'll do that.
You do the modelling before you open.
With the road open, you say the road
Yes.
will be there, then
Yes.
model?
Yes.
Okay.
So one of the responses to the modelling is based on assumptions. Traffic counts are actually actual traffic counts as best they can be. Okay, and there's there's much more reliance on actual traffic counts than there is on modelling.
But traffic counts are an input into the model.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you take the data that you've got, build the model, and then look at what the increase would be?
So,
Excuse me.
If you've got the expertise to share it, right, what's the secret?
so we've shown you the amount of traffic that's actually developed from the parts of Ashmore precinct that hasn't been occupied at the moment, and that's 11 vehicles per minute, and they will go out through a variety of entries and exits. So we've done that modelling.
That's not modelling, that's traffic
So you
counts.
said you've done modelling, you see it.
Sorry.
You said you've done modelling.
No, I've said we've done a calculation on the number of vehicle generation. Modelling will look at where they go to on all of the streets, and that's not highly reliable for this type of precinct.
The traffic.
It's going to be very annoying for a whole lot of people because they're not interested in hearing from you, Andrew. You can run your own meetings as often as you like. We're here with council staff. We're trying to do the best for you. We care about the outcome. If we can't sort it out tonight, we will come back again, okay? So let's just hear what Tim has to say, and then we will assess what needs to happen afterwards. But would you please be respectful and not interrupt?
So the first suggestion from the previous meeting was MacDonald Street between Wanbury and Mitchell Road be closed to traffic. So that's one option that we could consider if we found that there was an issue and the Devon track. Now, this would obviously people that currently use different current routes at the moment and don't have access to that particular MacDonald Street thing. So at the moment you saw Coulson Street's traffic was higher than the other traffic in the precinct. And so that would continue to be the case. So there wouldn't be a relief along another route through MacDonald Street. I'm just giving high level stuff. We'll need to look at this at some stage in the future. Then the next one was to close MacDonald Street underneath the bridge or near the bridge. So a full closure to both ways of traffic. Okay. Again, that would restrict vehicles, both residents and people who have a destination in the precinct, as well as reducing anybody who wanted to go through the whole precinct. So, and it would probably push, because of other streets, it would push people trying to get down to Coulson Street on either side, although it's restricted in one direction at a point. So it would probably increase volumes on some streets, but reduce in others. The other option that we heard was eastbound only, close to enable eastbound only, so close westbound underneath the bridge. And again, that would have some effects, but obviously in one direction. And so they're the ones we looked at. So what we are looking at for the next steps. So we've currently applied for Transport for New South Wales to install 30km speed limit in the whole precinct. So it's a number of, the city has that policy, and this is one of the first ones we're requesting for a 30km speed limit. Although traffic speeds are fairly low, but do recognise they're narrow streets, so they need to be low, the speed needs to be low. We'll monitor traffic conditions and install traffic tubes to compare the after MacDonald Street opens, and obviously when that opens and that first stage of building that's happening at the moment, we'll open it roughly at the same time, so people will be occupying those, and we'll do a similar traffic counts at that point in time. The results will be shared with the community. So then, should we have some of the residents' concerns get realised, we will have the information as to where it is an issue and where it's not an issue, and that then can guide us to look at potential options for mitigating that particular outcome. But if we did look at that, we'd need to consult with the broad community. So we'd have to look at the whole precinct, because there will be impacts for any measure you do in traffic. There's always positive impacts and negative impacts, and some of the positive impacts for one group of the community may be a negative impact for another group of the community. So we would need to do full-on community consultation. But we'd be actually working with the actual facts of the matter, not what might be or could be. We'd be working with the actual facts. So we might open up for a few questions. And happy to answer questions again.
If we don't have the answers now, we will make sure, it seems to me we're going to have to come back anyway, to get this really right. So the answers we don't have for you tonight, we will take down, and we will follow up, and we will come back.
I've come late to this, so I'm still trying to catch up on numbers and things. From what I see there, it's already been decided to make that a street. Yeah. What the response here is, and I'm guessing you all live in that precinct and you're worried about traffic filtering through it and going up and annoying all of you. I don't know, some of you may live somewhere else. But that is my concern, the rat run, the whole rat run thing. What does it take for us to convince the council that we don't want it open at all? Because I think that's an option.
We're going to find out afterwards.
See, to me, I mean, you're saying you put the street in and then you model, it's too late for us then, because unless you then say you close it off.
So how to do that without opening the street, there are plenty of options. What you're doing at the moment is driving traffic essentially out through Prospect or Rochford. So you're creating a massive rat run. And there are options you can do that give access, that we've submitted 4 options to you via email to Clover Moore, that you've not even considered as an option here.
I think they have been considered.
But they're not there. We haven't had a response.
For the right reasons.
So the main options that come from the community, we've actually included there. They're not the.
Well, you haven't included the ones we sent you.
We've sent them in, they have not been considered.
And
Somebody
We've got the
mentioned
email
that we were
included.
worried about exiting the precinct. I don't think anyone at the previous meeting mentioned exiting. Not one person mentioned exiting. That's not the problem. That's the
The reason why most of us are here, I beg to, hopefully, is because we're not worried about the development. We're not worried about the residents. And we're not worried generally about the speed. You can't drive fast around the precinct. The reason we're here is you're generating so much traffic that's now going to come through tight streets in Erskineville, which are already slow. We don't need speed. We don't need even down to 30 kilometres an hour. What we need is a solution for access and ingress to the apartments that doesn't drive it through 2 or 3 streets through Erskineville Village. And you're actually not answering our questions. You didn't answer the question at the last town hall. You haven't answered the questions at this town hall. So please listen to what the residents are saying. It's not political, it's residents that live here.
So at the last meeting, the concerns were raised at the meeting, and we agreed we would monitor now to see the actual impacts, because around 2/3 of the Ashmore precinct is already occupied. And there was comments that there's already been an increase. Okay? So we've done that. So we've got the information as to what the impacts of 2/3 of the precinct that's there, what the impact that is. That information we provided to you tonight, and I think you need to look at the detail of that particular one. But the general take of that is that the traffic volumes in the western part, I think you're referring to the western part of the rest of the train lines, those numbers aren't out of proportion for something that doesn't have major rat runs through it. And the information is consistent with that it's mainly local traffic or traffic that has an origin or a destination in there, coming in or out.
For now, you open that bloody floodgate and coming in flat out.
The key thing about assumptions that you run with are completely wrong is that you only look at the housing that's there on the MacDonald St. The second you open that street, you have this big pipeline called Maddox Street that now all of a sudden will stream right into the neighborhood. So you cannot restrict the apartments that are there now and say, 2/3 has already been built, so it's only going to be 1/3 more cars. It's not. The second you open the pipeline from everything that comes from the west into this whole neighborhood.
Yeah. So the option, the slide that had Google Maps was just one example. But
It's an irrelevant example because it doesn't look at where the traffic actually comes from.
Yes, but if you're looking, if it depends on where you're going, and the further you are from if you've got an origin destination further away from the precinct, generally you've got more options to go around the precinct. So if you look at the travel times currently on Google Maps, that's one example. You could choose different paths to get different kind of results, but the thing is, it doesn't look advantageous to actually go through those areas.
And you don't know the neighborhood, because I can tell you, if I would have come from Maddox Street and I would want to go anywhere on King Street, and you open that pipeline, the quickest way is through that pipeline. Wherever I would have to be on King Street.
Everyone use the microphone.
Thank you. You mentioned some of the options that you considered. I'm a bit surprised you didn't consider opening MacDonald as far as Hatfields, which was, I thought the purpose of the opening MacDonald Street was to allow access into the new developments that are between Hatfields and Mitchell Road, and between the walkway, whatever it's called, the Linear Park and Mitchell Road. I would have thought then that access could come off MacDonald Street between Hatfields and Mitchell Road, and you could close the street at Hatfields.
Yeah.
That would give you access.
There's quite a few permutations of what they could be, and we've just represented for simplicity, rather than have 8 options. So there will be hybrids of those or modifications of those.
You're only offering us one, why can't we offer you 2?
Sorry, one of the options you discussed was closing off MacDonald Street at the bridge, which I don't think anyone here is making any suggestion around that, because that's a whole access issue for the whole of the neighbourhood. What we're talking about is removing that potential for the rat run between Maddox and King Street, and you could open access to the rest of Axmore Estate by opening that little piece of MacDonald Street that doesn't exist at the moment between Hadfields and Mitchell Road, and then that would give you access into all of that new development, whatever it's called, Sydney Urco or Urco Sydney or something. But you haven't considered that one. I mean, to me, I'm really surprised that that's not one of the things
what
we
we're getting
considered.
We are taking notes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we are taking notes. But this is just really take this as a few examples that we could consider, but it really depends on what the impact actually is. Because,
Why do you want more cars in the area?
You can't build more roads in the area.
Can I ask my question? Thank you. I can appreciate the opening of the MacDonald Street to allow access to the precinct. In your speed assessment, you've identified speeds between 30 and 40 kilometres, which seem in line with expectations and safety. My question is, with the next steps, why have you requested the maximum speed be lowered to 30 kilometres an hour, and why is that necessary?
So speeds are generally low, but some of these environments are very narrow streets. So it actually still is an indicator, and city's policy is actually we would like more precincts to be 30 kilometres an hour. So this one we've actually applied for just recently.
You'd like it?
We have to apply to transport, and transport goes through a process. So we've applied for it to actually reduce the speeds, the speed limits in the whole
So are
area.
you suggesting the current speeds are not safe between 30 and 40?
I have a suggestion. There are a lot of views in this room, and we can't do it this way. So we are going to organise a Saturday afternoon workshop. Might go for 3 hours, but we get all your information down and pour over that and get some outcomes that we can present you with. So who would like to do that? Okay, all right. So look, I think if you've got material now, you can be thinking about that and coming back to us. But what we'll do is organise a workshop here for a whole Saturday afternoon, and you put down everything about your neighbourhood that you would like us to do something about, so that we can examine all that quite carefully and try and get an outcome that is the greatest good for the greatest number. It's difficult, as you can hear, different views, different interests, and we all want to look after where we live, and we don't like traffic and all of that. But we do have some traffic. You have less traffic than a lot of other areas, and probably a better environment than a lot of other areas, because you've got this marvellous transport. But there are issues here, and we can't sort them out in this way. There are too many of you, too many different proposals, and so we will do that longer process. Okay? So I think we may as well finish up now.
Could I talk about
Excuse me, Lord Mayor. Excuse me, Lord Mayor.
I have a genuine question. Could I ask a question?
Okay, put your hands up if you want to ask a question.
I'd like to ask a question, actually. When you came the last time, you did very detailed modelling of how you were going to traffic calm to the east of the bridge, putting in cycle lanes, putting in raised pedestrian mounds, trees, etc. What have you done, given the concerns that were expressed the last time, about what you're going to do to calm traffic on the west-hand side of the bridge?
Okay, all right. So can you respond to that?
So I think there was a suggestion from one group with potential speed humps, and there was a discussion, I think, on the floor about also potentially removing car parking, and I think there was a bit of a reaction to that at the last meeting. But given the speed humps generally will be more effective when you've got higher speeds currently. If you've got lower speeds, they generally don't reduce the traffic.
Okay. Just a quick question. What is against holding off on opening MacDonald Street for 2 years and see what happens? Because people might just buy less cars, they might just buy more bicycles. Maybe they don't need
the money on the roundabout, wouldn't it?
So at the last
That's a
meeting,
really good idea.
at the last meeting, we covered off on the approvals in Green Square and the planning in Green Square. So there's currently, the developer at the moment is required to deliver MacDonald Street as part of their works, and they need to do that before they can get occupation of their next buildings. And that's all in accordance with the plan, the master plan was put together many times ago. Sorry?
So their proposal, the acceptance of their proposal was as far as the bridge. There was nothing on the plan that says anything what's happening on the other side of the bridge. So it's not
On the western side of the bridge.
There's loads of agreements for the west hand side of the bridge.
If I might offer if I might offer a bumsteer question here, maybe to lower the temperature of the room. One of the slides I saw very early on in the piece indicated some residential dwellings to be put on the corner of Ashmore and Fox Avenue, which, as of course everyone here knows, that is the community centre for the bowling club. It's also right near to social housing. Where is the council at with that proposed residential dwellings? What is the consultation as regards to the bowling club and also the social housing nearby? Have their views been seen for that residential area?
I can't really answer that. Maybe our planning people, we could take it on notice to see if there's been any DAs lodged, development applications. But you've got Land and Housing owns the land for the potential affordable social housing, and the bowling club, the city doesn't own that, so we're not an owner. We can only just take on board where they are in the planning process. So we could take that on notice and come back.
Can I make a comment on that? 24 years ago, the local community saved that social housing. Many of you are probably too young to even know that. Some of you may remember it. When I saw the article in the Herald on the 30th of March that identified the Alexandria Bowling Club as surplus land, and there are going to be social housing. I've spoken to I've sent emails to each councillor, the Labor Party, tenants union. I think we need to have the fight about social housing again, because I'm concerned the same problem is going to happen. They're going to demand public-private housing with lots and more buildings, and I don't think any of us want that. So what I'm asking, when you said that we have concerns about our community, part of the consultation that you did next, could it be around this as well, please? Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we'll finish up the Lord Mayor's.
Can I up my question, which is, I think, if we look at history a little bit, we had the West Connect open, which started a whole bunch of rat running through the Maddox Street area, and we talked about how we were going to address the rat runs, we were going to close roads, we were going to put traffic calming in Maddox Street, I think 2.5 years ago, which still hasn't been acted on. And I guess my question is one, is that traffic calming a part of any of the proposal to reduce traffic? But also, if you look at the traffic flow through Maddox Street today, 5,000 cars on a weekday average, how do you know that that's not going to be what happens into Erskineville when these are roads that people are using to cut down Euston, they're using to cut behind into Green Square? It's just it seems like the history is the wait and see approach ends up introducing a lot of traffic without actually any action that meaningfully decreases that over time.
Good question. So, first of all, the state government put in the left turn into Maddox coming north on Long Euston. The city was totally against that. Transport have never. We continually ask them to remove that because that brings traffic in definitely from Euston Road. As you know, there was Alexandria traffic study and a Erskineville traffic study. You're all aware of that one. There was a measure in there. We went to the community with one of those measures a few years ago, and it didn't get support. So, but we do have another measure in there for the cycleway to go through there, and that will constrain the area. So we think that is actually a good thing for calming traffic and hopefully reducing traffic as possible. So that is still on our books for that one there. So, and I do agree, if you look at the figures, Maddox Street has probably the highest of the local street in the whole.
But that's because you have to go left to turn right. You have to go down Maddox to go around left to turn right. Good idea. Good idea.
So the traffic signals, there wasn't a mention at the last meeting. The traffic signals are yet to be decided. They're currently with transport, and there's a range of views in transport as to what would be where there's restrictions on right turns or not. So that's still with transport at the moment.
It's very important because that's directing the traffic into
Yeah, and we heard that at the last meeting as well.
On Maddox Street, the access road for all the delivery trucks into Atmore. Because they could ignore the 3 ton
Okay, I'll take a few more questions and then we're going to close. And then we're going to have a workshop where you have a better opportunity to give us all your information and we can assess it.
Sorry, answer that one. They could ignore the 3 ton limit on Maddox Street if they're delivering. And they're going to deliver along Maddox into MacDonald Street into the Ashmore Estate Retail Park. What's going to happen? We're going to have millions of trucks along Maddox Street ignoring the 3 ton limit. Already the rangers can't control the illegal trucks.
Yeah.
Well, that's an access road into Ashmore or not.
Okay, look, I don't think we can really solve these problems now. But we want to solve them for you as best we can. There are a whole lot of issues going on here. The development was approved years ago. The West Connects that the government pushed through, they've all caused issues. And we've tried to find solutions that will continue to protect your environments and your neighbourhoods. It seems to me a lot more work needs to be done because so many of you are here and you have so many different proposals. And that's why I think a workshop would be over a Saturday afternoon, give you enough time to put it all down, have enough planners here to be able to work with you to do it, and then see what outcome we can get.
Just one more question over here. The intersection of Union Street and King Street, there's a traffic light there, and that's owned by Transport for New South Wales. At the moment, the data is showing that intersection is already saturated for the exit out of the precinct during the AMP, and actually beyond that. What interaction has there been with Transport for New South Wales around negotiating an extension to the green time for that intersection? I just fail to see how you can upgrade the capacity of that intersection.
There was grace at the last meeting as well.
This is just confirming the problem, the data.
Yeah. So if there's more green time given to Union Street, that will probably encourage more vehicles to use Union Street and the other streets in that precinct. So and I think that was actually mentioned at the last meeting as well, the counter view. Transport usually give priority to the state routes. I don't believe we've had recent discussions with Transport, but I think I know what the answer would be. That they would give priority to King Street and not extend the Union Street green time.
I just see excessive weight basically developing in the local street, so that belongs to, that's all.
Yes, and that's currently a deterrent for.
It's already bad.
It's a deterrent for if there's any through vehicles, but it's also a deterrent for an inconvenience for the residents.
And people race to get around that corner, and they're going to see people pedestrians crossing the road at some point. It's a real safety issue. It's a real safety issue. People running over a red light.
Okay, well, we're making note of all the points we made.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm not going to keep taking questions because I've said I think it's impossible doing it in this environment. What we're going to do is come back and have an afternoon workshop. So it's taking us much longer than we thought it would, and I hope that we will see you at that workshop and we can get all this sorted. So thanks very much for being here.
There is a question on that meeting. Based on tonight, I don't have confidence that anything in that meeting is going to result in any change to the plan that's already been agreed to.